And after a minor delay,
we're never delayed. We're always on time. It's December 14th, 2020. Welcome aboard. This is Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 434.
Man, you went on your gut with that, man.
Season's greetings.
Season's greetings.
It's almost Christmas time. It is almost the end of the year. Hello, 2021. We will welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, I
got a taste of it yesterday, hopefully.
What do you mean you got a taste of 2021?
Well, I don't know. It just felt like a really alive, sunny day. A lot of people were out and about.
That's what January 1st is going to feel like, sunny and people out and about.
It just felt like
what I'm hearing is you felt you had a little pep in your step and you felt some optimism. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. You get out in the sun and you see different things, because you sit in the house a lot, and especially this time of year, and it's cold and gloomy, and you're like, you start getting in your head or whatever. And yesterday I just got out and walked the dog, and there's a lot of people out, a lot of people smiling, and it was just it was a good vibe, man.
You felt energy and optimism.
Yeah,
I like that. Hopefully we bring you some energy and optimism on today's podcast. If it's your first time tuning in, hello. We appreciate you tuning in. It's our, what did we say, 434 podcast. We're going to do twice a week, traditionally Mondays and Thursdays, but always twice a week. We have so for the past 4 years, and we'll continue to do so until podcast 1000, which we just agreed on was be our last podcast.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. No, we'll go on for as long. We'll go on for as long as we can, as long as they allow Skype and podcast recording in senior living. We will do this as long as Mike's available.
Yeah, come on, man.
We've been best friends for 8 years. We've been doing this podcast for 4. We've been coaches and athletes for even longer. So what we do is try to have an open, honest discussion about what we're both going through personally with just life and triathlon. It's while I would consider it a triathlon-related podcast, we do discuss a lot of life and what we're going through ourselves, what our athletes can be going through. Oftentimes we'll pop into our Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to search on there, answer one simple question. We will let you in. A lot of great people in there, a lot of great feedback in a wide range of athletic abilities, from beginners just trying to kind of find their way in the sport and figure out all the confusing info that is there. We have a lot of seasoned athletes and even some Ironman champions. So pop on in, make yourself at home, ask away, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of really great answers and responses. But for the most part, we'll cover a lot of swim, bike, and run-specific info, oftentimes go deep dive. Sometimes we'll have race recaps, race previews, the occasional guest, but for the most part, we just sit back, have a nice, open, honest discussion, and hopefully can deliver it in a consumable way and keep you happy and healthy in the process.
I like it. And I want to just point out because we're getting towards the end of the C26 Club registration phase. We're not exactly sure when that's going to end, but we think it's around January 1st.
Yeah, I would say January 1st.
And we're putting together a great program that can help you plan out your whole 2021 season. You lay down your races. We'll design your workouts and your plan around those races, and kind of take the anxiety and worry out of things, and give you a whole bunch of other stuff along with it. You can check it out at C26triathlon.com. Go to the coaching tab, drop down, and go to C26 Club, and there's all the information on there. It's easy to sign up. It's $349 for the year. Pretty sweet. It's growing. We got a lot of cool people in there.
A lot of awesome people. It's a great opportunity and a great package for people for next year that maybe are confused on races or when to build, when to peak, when to lay off, and how to really kind of structure their year. So we can take care of that for you, and Mike will do a great job coaching you and preparing you along the way. And also in our Facebook group yesterday or last night, I posted that we are starting tomorrow, or the 16th rather. We're going to be doing a little bit of a giveaway. We have, it's been a hell of a year, and Mike and I and our team decided that we can, do our best to kind of give back. So we're going to be giving back 10 things for the last 10 days leading up to Christmas. If you want to be a part of that, you can hop in our Facebook group. Again, that's Crushing Iron Group. Answer a simple question, and each day we'll give away one item, anything from a Garmin watch to your favorite pair of shoes to a visit to the hub and dinner and Mike and I. You'll be able to. I'm not sure if that's a sell or not. There might be like can I opt out of the dinner with Mike and Robbie? I just want to get the hub experience and then call it a day. But no, we're and we have those listed in there. I posted last night. So you nominate not yourself, but someone else, someone deserving that needs a good pick me up this year. We would love to be a part of helping them kind of get back in the swing of things. And We've got things from 6 months of customized coaching, got a club membership, a camp entry, you name it. It's listed. They're great experiences and a couple great things to have. And so hop in there and nominate someone who needs it, not just like I said yesterday, not just Timmy from down the street who's got a $20,000 tri-bike, always looking for a good deal in a Garmin. Somebody needs it, whether it's a healthcare worker or a teacher or somebody who's just had a rough year, like a lot of people have. We'd love to do our part to help pick them up and hopefully, bring them some energy and optimism to have a better year in 2021.
Can't hurt. I think everybody needs a little shot in the arm, and oh Jesus.
Yeah, he didn't. I'm not even gonna go there. We're gonna gloss over that one. That was well played, though. I don't think he even meant to do it, but
I really didn't. Because, that's like
well put.
Yeah,
everyone needs a shot in the arm this time of year.
I mean, if you can't laugh out a little bit,
seriously. If you didn't laugh at that, then we're definitely not for you. I can already feel like the 1-star reviews rolling in right now. Roll them in.
Bring them on.
You know what? For every 5 1-star reviews, we get a 5-star review. So you know what? We'll let that roll. I got a couple topics. Dave, do you have anything that was kind of?
My topic was going to be, what's your topic?
Oh, okay, good. I was thinking about it this morning and actually kind of going through this with myself recently. Is I kind of got back in the swing of things, my own training this year, or for this next season. I'm back. I thought it'd be a good topic just because this time. I always find this time of year really interesting. It's kind of like the supreme version of I'll wait till Monday, right? Because everyone's like, we got Christmas and I just can't wait for the holidays to get over with. And we got January 1st. I'm telling you, I'm going to be ready. And I just find like dates on the calendar that we make and kind of like progress to and put all of our eggs in kind of this basket. I just find the psychology behind that very, very interesting. And I was going through Training Peaks this week or this morning and going through how people did over the weekend, how they're looking for this week. And we obviously went through our December rules, which is a podcast we did 2 weeks ago in terms of things that we kind of laid out for our athletes to kind of help them not get lazy or be lazy, but just kind of feel the freedom and show themselves some grace to unwind and just kind of get ready for the year. It's kind of, I used the description like in my weekly email this morning. It was kind of like you need to be a horse in the gate. Like you're there, you're standing pat, you're just kind of chomping at the bit, ready to go, which I think a lot of athletes are. And I think one of the hardest things to do this time of year is to recognize when you really are ready. And I think there are a lot of kind of false positives, if you will, in terms of the warning signs, that you're ready to get back or you're not ready to get back. And I think a lot of people think it's more physically, but I tend to gravitate more towards mentally and emotionally, kind of the things you can look for that will allow you to see, hey, I am ready. I think I am ready to get back to work. Because, a lot of people have like races in the year or they didn't race this year and they really want to do awesome this next year. And so they hate taking time off. And you have a lot of athletes that did Ironman Florida, Cozumel, or, some of the races that happened and they got really excited for, and they're like, hey, I don't want to lose a lot of momentum, but now I've lost some of it. Am I back? Am I ready to get back? And then you'll see like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, bam, bam, bam. They just crushing workouts. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, nothing. Yeah. It's like we have that. And that's for a lot of people. It's just it's very symbolic of how you see a lot of people come out of the gate January 1st, guns a-blazing, ready to go. I'm in the gym 15 hours a week. I'm also going to drop 30 pounds this month. And I'm going to give up sugar and water and air, and I'm going to really just kind of fast my way through this first month, and I'm going to be ready to go. And then by February 12th, they're like, okay, it's over. I'm done. Like, I have nothing else left to give. Screw it all. I'll start back again in March. Or, maybe I was wrong. And I just think for myself personally, had a huge build up to what I thought was going to be Texas 70.3. Even got in my car to drive down there and had to turn around, and then did my own kind of self-supported race here at the hub. And honestly got back on the bike like the Monday following and had that same feeling. It was like, I think I'm gonna keep rolling. I think I'm gonna keep this going. And I hopped on the bike the one day and then to swim, and then the next 4 days I was like, yeah, I don't want to do anything, and kind of implemented my own structure, non-structure, and then haven't been on the bike since. I've done a few runs, haven't even gotten back in the pool. And then Saturday morning I woke up and I just had this thought was, I'm back. And it wasn't anything physically. I legit actually, I slept terrible Friday night. I woke up Saturday morning early. I didn't feel sick. Those nights where you wake up, you don't sleep very well. Just like, I just don't have it today. I just didn't feel good. But I ran down the hill, and I was going to go out for like a 45-minute run. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to rip a 5K. And, it wasn't to like say like, hey, I think I have some like breakthrough 5K in me. I didn't feel awesome. I felt kind of blah, to be honest with you.
You just wanted to get it over?
No. I wanted to honestly, I wasn't trying to gauge where I was fitness wise. I was trying to gauge if I was, because I had planned on getting back to work today, this Monday. So it's Saturday, so a day or two before. So what I really wanted to test was I really mentally and emotionally back? And basically my thought process behind it was run an easy mile and then just pick it up. And then if you are engaged enough, regardless of the pace, regardless of the result, if you're engaged mentally and emotionally enough to say, you know what, I can stick it out for this long and do it no matter what, then to me, that will tell me I'm back. I'm ready to do what it takes to get the work done no matter what the result. So I went out, ran an easy mile, and then I was like, you know what? I walked for about 10 seconds. I was like, are we going to do this? And I was like, maybe not. Well, it doesn't feel very good. It's kind of warmed in. It's like, screw it, let's go. And then just took off. And then to be honest with you, around the 2-mile mark, I was fading fast. And I thought, let me just slow down and just, whatever. I wasn't even supposed to do it today. What's the big deal? It's a little bit warmer than it's been. You kind of have these list of excuses that you kind of like ration on. And then I kept going. I was like, screw it. I was like, just finish it off and see what you got. And I was actually fairly happy with my result. But what I was the most happy with was the fact that I finished it. And I got done and I thought to myself, you're back. You're ready. You're not back ready for 20 hours a week training, which I don't want to do anyway. I was like, but you're back ready to be mentally and emotionally engaged, not looking for every reason not to do it. You actually chose to find a reason and a way to do it. And I think that's one of the kind of the tell-alls for athletes mentally and emotionally. Is it like, are you trying to find excuses not to do it, or are you trying to find ways to get it done and to do it? And that's a good way to figure out if you're ready to get back to training or not.
So you're back. That decided it for you. Okay.
Yeah, it really did. Like, it was like, I woke up the next day, went out for my easy run. I was like, now I'm just back on to click on and fire on all my cylinders.
Funny, man. Like, I think sometimes, there's this sort of juxtaposition at this time of the year between, just stay in the game, take it easy and whatever. And then sometimes and that's kind of what I've been finding. I've been trying to get on just a steady groove with getting on a bike a few times a week and taking her easy and just spinning it out and coming kind of, because I've been out of shape. You've been in pretty good shape for the race and everything, and I've been just trying to get it sort of going. But last week, one day, I just decided I was going to do some kind of an intense bike just to kind of perk me up, like get it going a little bit. And I didn't go overboard, but I kind of pushed it a little bit and kept it pretty short, and it didn't phase me as far as wreck me the next day or anything like that. But it's almost like just to sort of strike that match a little bit and kind of just warm it up. Because I think it's easy just to kind of this would be interesting. Is it easy? You know how you can get in a groove of laying around on a couch and just kind of at that level of energy. And can you get at that same level of energy in working out where it almost like you're in shape, but it's kind of like you're being a little bit lazy. I'm just making sort of an analogy, right? But you're out running, it doesn't ever feel like you're being lazy. But if you're never gonna kind of push that envelope or kind of,
it's the difference between exercising and training.
Yeah,
and I've used that. We've had this discussion before, and it's not like I'm not taking it as a shot or anything, but there is a huge difference in inconsistently, randomly exercising and purposeful training. There's just a huge difference. Do you have a purpose? Is it structured? Does it have a beginning, a middle, and an end goal? Is it there is a progression to it? Is there a structure to it that's trying to get you to do this each and every day? That's training. And then there is exercising, which, to be honest with you, that's probably the best way for people to look at December. Is I'm just going to kind of exercise whenever I want to. I'm just going to kind of go out and do whatever I feel, what feels right to me, what makes me happy, what gets me moving. Because, movement is medicine. And I think in so like we've ever found that like this year is the year where like movement is medicine. People just think I just need to get out the door. I just need to get out the door, put my shoes on. Once I got moving, and I'm so glad. Like seriously, we say this a lot. Like I've never read a Training Peaks comment that was like, Coach, I was in a terrible mood, but I put my shoes on, went out and ran, and I feel worse. It's always, and now I feel so much better. And I'm so glad that I did. Movement is medicine. So no matter how you look at it, whether it's exercising or training or however you want to put it, being flexible, I think, and just kind of listening to your body and doing what moves you or what's going to make you feel better. That's more of like an exercise type thing. Like, and it's not a lazy thing. It's just not purposeful, or it have a lot of intent behind it. Whereas structured, training or things with a process and a purpose behind it, you would consider that training. It has a method behind it, a method to the madness, if you will. And that is kind of what you find yourself kind of fading into. But that's also why it's so much harder to adhere to. Right, because not everyone can adhere to structured training for long periods of time. They tend to regress and go back to more exercising because they enjoy having that freedom, not because they can't physically handle it, but because the structure and the rigidness behind having to get specific things done each and every day is sometimes too mentally and emotionally exhausting, or even more stressful for athletes to have. Like I have an athlete, like one of the probably the higher level athletes that I work with. He's a Boston qualifier. He's a 70.3 worlds guy. Like he's a very on the podium in his age group, a very competitive guy. And maybe a week and a half ago, he's like, "Hey coach, just as a heads up, I'm not going to wear my watch. I'm not going to log back into Training Peaks. I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want to. I'll check back with you January 1st. Wow. And I was like, dude, have a blast, man. That's what you want people to do. And it's not that he's not interested in getting better, or that he doesn't have these huge goals for this year, because he does. He's actually going to step up to the Ironman distance, but he's recognizing within himself, if I want to be at my best in August, September, October, when everyone wants to be at their best, then I have to do what's best for me in December or January. And that's going to look different for everyone. It could look like, you're always very good listening to your body and kind of doing what feels right for the most part. But not a lot of athletes have that skill, because they always feel this kind of pull to always do more all the time, when for most athletes, you just can't hold on to that level, not of physical, training and focus and the stress that comes with it, but just the mental and emotional toll that it can take on you to do it for not just days and weeks, but months on end. So you have to have that period of time, not just to be kind of become unfit. Like we like I posted an article in our closed group about Deslin was like, after big marathons, like it's actually good to lose fitness and to get unfit, because you have to build it back. But also I think it's important to detrain and become unemotionally and mentally fit and just kind of let it go for a little bit, because when you come back, you'll come back stronger and more mentally and emotionally dialed in.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't want to call it like an addiction, but I would think it's sort of like a pressure from society to always want to show progress, right? There's this thing about progress, and if we can't gauge it in numbers or something like that, we feel like it's a failure. But I think like what your athlete's doing, that's a progressive move to kind of back out of it, right? So it's like this. It's sort of like, it feels like you're not getting better, but if you look at the long curve, that could be a necessary step in the whole progress picture, right? Like if you went out every day and tried to get like a little bit better every day, I mean, you're just going to run out of room at some point, and then you're going to stall, versus if you kind of let that dip every once in a while and regrouped and built it back up and kind of just up and down, you just keep growing at the end, instead of just like plateauing and then burning out or something like that. So it's a different kind of way to look at a progress, I guess. If you're like, what's it going to take to keep getting better in the long run? And a lot of times, that is backing it down. That is kind of regrouping mentally and trying to figure out what you're going to do. But like, I don't know, man. I just think that we can get in these sort of grooves of, I mean, even yesterday I went out for a walk, and, like that is medicine, right? So it's like, to me, that felt really good. And I felt awesome yesterday, and I was going to do a workout, and I'm like, man, I feel too awesome to do a workout. I was like, why do I want to ruin this? Right. And I thought, to me, that was like a step in the right direction in a weird way. Because, it's always like that thing we talked about with coffee or whatever, you have a couple cups, and that's like you're right there. You're
the
right where you want to be. And that's kind of how I felt yesterday. I was like, man, I was getting stuff done around the house. I had good energy and everything like that. And I'm like, why do I want to, do I need to prove something to myself by getting on a bike or going for a long run or something? Because that's exactly, I feel great. I'm going to go out for a long one. That's probably what I would have done. And then been all like, tangled up at night and being like, man, that was stupid. Accepting where you're at sometimes is.
Well, it's really hard this time of year, and especially I think after a year like this, where athletes either didn't get to race until the end of the year, and a lot of athletes probably had a really good result. So they're like, oh, I got to keep this level, right? It's like that's the most dangerous thing you can do as an athlete is to have one of these really late, myself included. I didn't have a race, but I felt that probably the fittest I've ever felt in years. In early to mid-November, and then I got back on the bike that Monday a couple days later, and I was like, I got to keep at it. I got to keep this train rolling.
Yeah.
And my mind was like, my body was actually fine. My mind and probably my heart to an extent was like, dude, no, you don't like you'll get it back, but we need a minute. Like you were dialed in, you were focused, you had a huge emotional investment in this day and this build. And we kind of laid it all out there. We kind of need a break. We kind of need some time to just not give a shit for a little bit. I know you want to get back in the saddle and you want to start running and swimming and doing whatever again, but we need a break. And I think it's really important for athletes to listen to that. And to the other end, like for athletes who didn't get a chance, to race and didn't have that huge culmination of a day that either ended up poorly, that was like, God, I'm just going to be back and better than ever next year. I'm going to really get my act together. Or they went out and they raced lights out, and they were like, I got to keep this up. I want to keep this train rolling. Like this is how it's going to be. And then to ask that person immediately to say, all right, take some time. Like it is incredibly hard to do. Like we had a lot of athletes do Daytona 70.3, and a lot of them had some really, really good results. And one of the hardest conversations is like, yeah, I know you had a great race. You're super pumped and you're jazzed for next year. And I know May and June doesn't seem like that's far away, but relax. Take a little bit of time off. The biggest thing I think that you can tell yourself right now, especially if you've had some good progression this year and you saw some results that you liked and you think you're heading in the right direction, is to remember what got you here. And this is a time of year where people absolutely love, especially with January 1st, when you're going to have like 19 different new fitness trends and diet trends come out with all these things January 1st. Everyone likes to reinvent the wheel and do something different because it's more exciting to them. And to be frank, a lot of athletes feel like they need that because they can't mentally and emotionally engage to something that doesn't have that much variety in it, because it's just the same. I need something to kind of like perk me up, if you will, and get me rolling again. So they look for something brand new. And the hardest thing to do is look back, okay, well, if you're really happy with how you got here and you don't feel like that much is wrong with it, you may need some tweaks here and there, then if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And a lot of athletes will put their hands too much on their training this year and try to change things up too much when things have been working. They just need something to be more, they feel like they need to be more engaged. Remember what got you here. Listen to your body, listen to yourself, and prepare for the long haul, because again, as we all found out this year, it is a long road and it is a long year, and you can't be on point all year long, all the time, 24/7, because if you do have that attitude, you will do it for a few weeks, maybe even a couple months, but then you're going to crash and burn for probably just as long as you had it. And that's kind of the yin and the yang of the whole thing. Is usually if you overdo it to an extent, it takes equal time to get it back. And that's what you're kind of saying. Like if you feel really, really good and you feel like that was just enough, if you go overboard, then it's not going to be just, the same recovery time as normal. It's probably going to be a couple of days extra, a couple of weeks extra, or maybe even a couple of months extra.
That's an interesting concept, this idea of just enough, right? And like you're saying, if you kind of go balls in all the way and then you need these are longer troughs of recovery or whatever it is. And if you go and that's why I'm a big fan of people like especially because we talk about, building that foundation, that chassis with a lot of running, a lot of, zone 2 running and things like that. But sometimes I think people get the itch, and I have this thing where I'm like, if you're out there in zone, just, pick it up for a little bit, maybe like a 30-second sort of like zone 3, zone 4, whatever, and just mix those sort of things into your workouts too, because I get how it can be sort of mundane, and not everybody is, in a space where they can be extremely disciplined and go to bed every night at the same time, wake up every night or morning at the same time. And I mean, those are difficult kind of patterns for people to get in and sort of feel gratitude about them. And that's always seems to be like our challenge, right? Is to just sort of like be okay with what is, and no matter what that is. But sometimes I think a lot of us need little perks here and there, like your 5K the other day. And, you kind of get that urge to sort of like, just kind of see where you're at a little bit. But like, that doesn't mean go out and run an open half marathon. You know what I mean? It means just sort of like flirt with things a little bit, just to remind yourself. And I think it's always a good practice, actually, to sort of remind your body that like, hey, we're trying to get strong and build endurance, but we're also, we also still like to go fast, a little bit here and there. So, and I think it's always personally best to try that on the bike and maybe in the pool or something like that, rather than run yourself into a bad place. But I think I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. It's just like, slowly building up your speed and then backing it off, and just kind of, I just think it gives you a good control of who you are and your body and your ability to do that when you need it later. It's a good practice. I mean, that's like a thing you never really would think about, but like if you can control and understand what you're doing in a race and back that down when you need to, and maybe pick it up just a little bit, and find that sweet spot. These are things you can kind of work on, I think, all the time.
You know what the first thought I had was on Sunday morning when I went out to run again? Let's do it again.
Yeah?
Yeah, I came down the hill.
But longer and faster.
The weather was perfect. Like the morning before, I was in like shorts and a t-shirt. Because it was warm. It was warm Saturday before the rain came in, and it felt really nice, but it was humid. And then I woke up Sunday morning, it was kind of misty. It had rained on Saturday, and the humidity was down, and it was cool, and I was perfectly dressed, and I ran the first mile, and I was thinking like, I feel kind of good. Like maybe I could rip it again. And I was like, dude, like, the invisible, like, slap myself back and forth. I was like, hey, dude, wake up. This is not how you do things. And then I was like, you know what? Just cruise it, just like you intended, just like you planned. Just stick with it. And then around like minute 45, 50, when I was finishing up, I was like, yeah, that was a good idea. Because I could feel some of the residual soreness from the day before kind of piling in there. But I was like, yeah, see, this is the restraint you got to keep. Just because you pop it off one day, that's it. You don't need to pop it off a lot. And that's, again, like we talked about that a couple of days or a couple of podcasts ago, in terms of, like you don't need to show your work every single workout. And if that's how you want to race, like if you want to have a certain pace, you don't need to run that pace the entire time. And I think one of the most common like misconceptions, and it's probably my fault the way we've worded it from like the get go, is like when we say, like to run fast, you need to run slow. It's not about running slower or getting slower. It's about running easy. If you really want to run hard and progress and see your pace drop significantly at easier efforts and levels, then you have to be able to run easier, more often and more frequent. And you'd be like, it's supposed to work like this. You're supposed to train easy and then have a couple hard days here and there sprinkled in, but your race pace is supposed to be significantly faster than what you have been doing in your training. It's not supposed to be the opposite, which is how a lot of athletes find themselves. They find themselves training so fast and so hard during training that when they actually get into a race, it's slower. But what should actually happen as long as it's a good day and you've paced it correctly and you have a pretty good race, you should be able to run faster than what you're doing in training. You should see sometimes a significant drop in what your regular pace is. And like, if you look back at your what you ran on the day, then you probably wouldn't have accumulated that many minutes at that pace over the course of the last, 2 or 3 months. Like, you might use my 5K as an example. I ended up averaging 6:17s, and over the past 6 months, it's over a 5K, and I think over the last like 3 to 4 months, I think I've spent a total of 45 seconds under 6:30 at any point, and probably not even 5 minutes under in the half marathon I did, but before that, probably not even like 15 minutes total, even under 7:15 or 7:20 pace in the last 4 to 6 months yet. When you go out and rip it, it's still there, but it's something that's really, really hard for people to wrap their mind around, because it's almost impossible to feel like it works that way. To feel like that's what's actually something you can accomplish on race day if you train a certain way. But what happens is it allows you to train more, which allows you to perform better. When you run yourself from the ground by only running 2 or 3 days a week, and because you feel like you have to run fast all the time, well then yeah, you're not going to progress. You're going to just kind of be who you are. You're just going to run fast every week and become stale and plateau. But if you're able to start running 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you're supposed to do it, and you're able to do it for weeks and months and months and months, then yeah, on race day, when you finally taper out and you're able to rip it, you should see a pace that you haven't even seen before.
Well, I mean, that's a big point. And how do you get, that's one of the reasons I'm always trying to instill confidence, because if you haven't done that, or you don't believe that, or even like me, I've been around this sport a long time, I kind of trust that, but there's still always going to be a little bit of a question mark, I think. And especially if you're new, I don't know, training with us or on a plan like that, and you haven't really done it, how do you get people to believe it? I guess it just takes time, because, it sounds so counterintuitive, and there is something weird about our ability, if our body can handle it, to kind of hit that level, and with the race energy and the recovery and the rest and the taper and all that sort of stuff, and have that come together. It's kind of amazing how that works, really, because you think about if you really want to do that in a race, it's almost like you have to make it feel easy by going faster in training. It's that's the initial thought you would have on that, right? It would be if you want to run 8:15 in a half Ironman or something like that, that you would have to be real comfortable at a 7:15.
Yeah, and run it all the time.
And run it all the time.
That's why you see.
And it's oh, okay, I can do that for sure. It's sort of it's sort of like running the distance of a marathon all the time. But how do you trust that?
Well, the thing is if that's if you understand the effort and the intensity that it takes to run an open half marathon or full marathon at that intensity, and that's the intensity you try to keep up in training, then you're gonna that's why you see so many marathoners get hurt all the time, because they pick a pace from what's supposed to be their Boston qualifying pace, and they're like, oh, sorry, so my Boston qualifying 7:30s. I guess I gotta run 7:30s. That's all they do is they go and they run 7:30s all the time. Well, if I can't run 7:30s in training, how am I supposed to run 7:30s in a race? And it's still kind of beyond me, with as much information that is out there, even from the most world-class marathoners, the fastest people on the planet that break marathon records on the weekly basis, run their easy runs in the 8s, right? And they're racing in the low 5s to high 4s. What does that not tell you, right? How can it be any more clear that that's how it's supposed to be done? Yet age groupers, for the most part, feel like that is basically not for them. They're just pros. They do it differently. Yeah, they do it differently. That's why they're pros. It's not vice versa. But you do you have to accumulate it for a long period of time to see it. And you have to put in an enormous amount of trust to be able to, but that's the thing is most athletes and triathletes do this all the time too. And just people in general, we get so distracted in the middle of something that seems so simplistic that how is this really why is this doesn't feel like it should be enough. It's just too simple, right? There should be something more extravagant to this for me to have this really breakout race. And so you get distracted and you decide to do something totally different, right? And a lot of athletes do that. You have to see it through the entire way to actually see and then reap the benefits, and then feel like, oh, I get it. This is the way. And I should continue to do it this way. That way you'll continue to progress the way that you want to. But it takes a lot of faith and it takes a lot of trust. And I 100% get that, especially as a coach. When I have these conversations with athletes, I'm like, no, you need to stop doing this and start doing this. You're like, well, how is that going to make me faster? I feel like it makes me slower. That's not how it works. That's not how your body works. Just because you're running slower, running more often, doesn't mean your body's going to run slower. It actually means you're going to be faster if you do it enough. And it just takes a lot for, I think, people to wrap their brains around that. But then they have to actually get out there and run it and be like, oh, that does make sense. I am accumulating what I need to accumulate by doing it this way. but it's not that exciting, coach. Like I want to go out and I want to do my, have track Tuesday and track Thursday and, track spike Saturday. Like I want to do these because they're more fun. And I get it. If you think it's more fun, that's fine. But it's kind of a conversation you have to have yourself. I'm more interested in having fun and keeping my attention span in check, or am I really obsessed with trying to get better? And if you're trying to get better, then for the 99.9% of people, the answer is doing more work and doing it, in 85-90% of your runs being fairly chill, zone 1 to 2, and then occasionally sprinkling some hills, some tempo. And for most athletes, you shouldn't even go beyond that. You should just stick to sprints. It's to like some really short sprints here and there, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or some tempo work in hills. You shouldn't even like remotely even touch trying to put the icing on with, 400, 800 repeats or a mile repeats on the track. Like just stick to the tempos and the hills, and I guarantee you'll probably be better.
Mm. Well, let's take an example of maybe one of your athletes. We don't have to point them out, but just in general, somebody who might have I always feel like I have a top end, right? Like I know what I can reach. Like if I'm going out there and I can, what can I drop my Garmin down to right now? Mm-hmm. And I know that that's somewhere in the 5.5, whatever range. Like when I'm in decent shape, or even now, but it would hurt now and it might hurt me now. Right. So like if everybody has sort of their, innate pace ability right now, whatever that may be. I mean, that should be, I feel like that's kind of accessible, but the point is you have to be in shape to hold, not that you're going to run that fast in a race, but like if mine's 5:30, my race pace might be 8:30 or something like that. And then if I train at 10:30, then I know that I can, you know what I mean? Like there's that range of speed that I know I have, but I have to be in shape and strong enough and flexible enough and resilient enough to kind of hit it. So I just to me, it's always a confidence. Like it's like, it's there, but you don't have to look at it. Mm. You know what I mean? Like it takes confidence to just not kind of peek in there and see if it's still there. And even though it is, but you still have to prove it or something like that. And I think that's a big deal. I've been running maybe randomly 3 to 5 miles here and there for the last couple months. And I went out the other day, and a lot of it's been on hills and trails and stuff like that. And I went out on the Greenway, the flats the other day, and I was like, all right, to keep that heart rate, low and just chill it out. And I did that for the first 5 miles. And then I realized that I was kind of late for something. And I'm like, shoot, and so I just started picking it up, and it was amazing because I hadn't run this speed at all, but I felt really good running that fast. But I had, a little bit. So in other words, it's in there for me, I know, but I'm just not ready to kind of go get it yet.
You need to know you have it, but it's the obsession becomes the length of time you need to prove it. Yeah. And that's where athletes kind of get into.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's what athletes get into, getting a lot of trouble with, is because they feel like they have to have it for long periods of time. And that's why you can't look at just open marathons and open running and just as a singular sport. It's not the same. Okay. It's a triathlon because they're not also swimming 3 to 4 times a week and doing 10 to 12, 15K a week in the pool. They're not doing 4 to 6 to 10, 12 hours on the bike. So they're not doing that and also adding in hard running. But most athletes, you have to remember that if you're, as long as you're training consistently and you're putting forth just at least 80% of the work you're supposed to, then you're going to be building fatigue over and over and over again. So to ask your body, fatigued, to go out and run a sustained effort for a long period of time that is your top end, you're going to break yourself. And the truth of the matter is if you really wanted to dig that deep, you probably couldn't. If you were under that much fatigue, your body would be like, no, you can't run this hard because you've been swimming and biking a lot and you have this 2, 3, 4 week buildup that's made you tired, right? That's what it's supposed to. And that's why it's so hard leading up to a race. I had this conversation last week with one of our athletes who had one of his probably best performances ever. He ended up running a 1:21 half marathon at Daytona, which was a 6:07 pace. And I don't think we ever did a single long run period, even under 7:15, and never ran for more than 10 or 15 minutes at a sustained period, under 6:30. And we built up this huge amount of fatigue, and that's why tapering is hard too. And then finally, like 4 days before the race, his normal all day pace, it was like in the mid 7s. He was like, I'm kind of grumpy. Like my legs aren't there. Like I'm really feeling kind of crummy. I'm wondering if my legs are going to come back. All of a sudden Tuesday morning at like for a 25-30 minute run, it was like easy, chill all day 654s. He was like, there they are. They've arrived. And it's not like they've arrived. It's that you've cleared the path through getting fresh, that now we can really, really show all these, because it's not just a day. It's not just weeks. It's months and months and months of work that you're just not able to do it. You're just not. As long as you're working hard enough and swimming and biking enough to build up that fatigue, you won't be able to show it because you're fatigued. But then when you get fresh and you go out there and you ride and you do your race and you swim and you bike and then you hop off, you should be able to run as hard as you possibly can and see something you haven't seen before, because you become totally fresh, and you only have to do this for one day, and you've tapered long enough, and hopefully it's been a proper taper. But like, it's just one of those things that I think triathletes especially just don't understand, because we like to look at things as 3 singular sports on one day, but it's not. It's one sport, and like that's what you have to manage, is the overall fatigue that all 3 sports play. You're not just you can't expect to see it all every single day, every single week. You should see glimpses of it, and it shouldn't be glimpses of your top end speed. It should be hints that's coming around by going out in let's say your usual 5.2 mile loop or whatever, and you know how much it's going to take you 45 minutes, and you go out and you're like, all right, I gotta be back and pick up my kids in 45 minutes. All of a sudden you come back in 42, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm gonna just find a longer route. That's when like those glimpses. You don't need glimpses of your top end all out speed, because that's reserved for race day, hopefully. But those small glimpses or you go out for a ride and you look down and you're cruising at 200 watts into 180, and you're like, this is super easy, I'm super chill, I'm just hanging out with the boys. And look down and you're like, whoa, things are coming around.
Yeah,
that's what you need to see, glimpses, not staring at it to see the whole thing rip, because we talked about this a million times before. It's like, you've only got a few of those matches to burn, and you want the matches to be big when you strike them and burn them. You don't want to have to open up the matchbook and think, let's see, which one of these half burnt matches do I have left to rip on race day, because I went out too hard and too many workouts with too many long bricks on every single day of the week. Yeah, let's see if this one will still light. And then you go out and you light it. It's like, oh, it's gone. And then you get out of the swim and you're like, I'm toast for the day. Like, that's just, you have to have restraint. You have to have patience. You have to be brought into the process. And then ultimately, to the largest extent, like, you have to see the results on race day. And then after you finally invest and then you finally buy in and you cash out on race day, then you're like, oh, I get it. I can do this long-term buy-in thing again. And then you do it repetitively over and over and over again to get your best result.
Yeah, it's... A lot of it for me is, I think we just have to remember to train to our fitness, right? Or to the situation we're in, because like we talked about a lot of times before, a lot of people get in this sport and they used to be cross country or whatever, and they would run a, 17-minute 5K, and that's sort of what their baseline in their brain is, but they haven't done it in 20 years or whatever. And I think there's a lot to be said for having sort of that patience to understand where you're at the moment and train to your current fitness, because you can really get in trouble if you try to push that for too long. I like what you said about glimpses, man. That's like, that's the thing, right? And they usually show up when you're least expecting them, when you're not thinking about it and things like that. If you're on a group ride, like you said, or running out with some people, and we've all been there, right? Running with people and they start out too fast. You're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it's like, if you're used to running by yourself and the next thing you know, you go out too fast on a group run, but something about it kind of like made... That's why I love group stuff sometimes, because it really can help you kind of push over a level. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh man, I'm more comfortable and confident at that pace or whatever it is. But sometimes it can go wrong too. But I'm just saying, most of the time, group support and things like that can kind of help if you're stuck maybe at, cause you can get in your own head, even at this stuff. And it's like, you go out and run by yourself and you're kind of dragging along and whatever. And it's just, your body might be, it's just, you're in such a pattern that you can't break it. And I think a lot of times we do need to break it. And again, this sort of goes back to what you said earlier about that 5K. It's sort of like, I think sometimes the body needs a kick in the butt, to get it, just to get it going. It's like, hey, let's improve here a little bit. Just a little. And
you're going back to about the being lazy, and like the longer you sit, the harder it's going to be to get back.
Yeah.
And not just get back, but the harder it's going to be to get up. You know, it's kind of like having that car you restored and you have back. You don't drive it that much. What do? Every week you're out there, start it up, and just let it run for a little bit, because if you don't, then things are going to go wrong. Like, that's how your body is. If you just sit and sit and sit and you become sedentary, like, it doesn't take that long for your body to become what I would consider, like, usually for most athletes, just detraining as in terms of like becoming unfit starts at about 2 weeks for most athletes. It doesn't happen drastic. It's not some like, oh, all my fitness is gone. That doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Like, hop back. I biked once in the last 3.5 weeks. I hopped on the bike today, and for the most part, my legs are pretty much the same. It was my butt, on the other hand, it was like, dude, where have you been? Like, it's going to take you a little bit to callus that thing back up. But everything else was still there. It might not seem as easy because you're just kind of getting back into your body's like, oh, hey, we're back again, I guess. We better just kind of get back in the swing of things, but it gives you more energy. It makes you feel more alert. But it is like, the longer you sit, the longer you are lazy, the longer you don't do anything, the harder it's going to be to even just get started back up, because your body has become its new normal, right? Sitting and not doing anything and being lazy and being sedentary has become your body's new normal. And it's like, what you're doing now is totally foreign to it, versus when you're in consistent, process-oriented training. When you rest, your body's like, dude, what are you doing? We're like, go do something with your life. Like, get out and do. It's not used to resting. There is a happy medium in there, but it takes a while to get that back. That's why you also have to ease back into. You can't just shock your body into, like most triathletes do on January 1st. All right, dude, time to get going. I'm going to cut out sugar, everything. Like, I'm all done. I'm all done. And I'm also going to go to the gym and work out 15 times this week. That's all I'm going to do. And then at Thursday, you're like, I can't function. I'm so sore, I can't move. I've totally deprived myself of all the nutrients that my body needs to repair itself. I'm crashing and burning. And because your body's like, dude, 7 days ago, you were partying like it, and then eating drinking all kinds of alcohol, eating all kinds of food, hitting up the Crystal at, 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve night. And now you're trying to turn me into like, David Goggins meets, the butter coffee dude on, cryogenics. Like, you're like, this is not me. What are you doing to me? You're crushing me. You're not improving me. You're killing me.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, that Christmas party season is such a mental stimulant, right? It just keeps going higher and higher and higher. And then it's like, I'm going to turn this around, and your body is like totally unprepared for that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes too, it's just like, it's hard, man. You gotta I keep thinking about it in terms of like, okay, I'm going to ease back into this, and I'm not going to be sore, and I'm not going to have any fatigue, and I'm just going to be back in shape. But sometimes you got to really like push through some of that stuff. I think, especially when you're getting back into it and it's been a while, and it's not easy, like you say, with butt pain on the bike, and, little aches and pains, especially as I get older. I'm kind of like, damn, man, this is just, I hate this, sucks. But you push through it. And like, I look back to whenever I am ready for Ironman races, and I've been several times in the last some years, like it's hard to remember like how strong and good you feel at those times. Sometimes, it's like all the stuff that goes through the year, and all the struggles you have kind of getting into these sorts of shape. And then, like you said, every once in a while, you're just like, whoa, a glimpse of something comes along, and you start feeling better about it mentally and physically. And then it becomes a reality. Like, okay, I can do this. But like right now, even though in my mind I know I can do Ironman, I am just like, man, I've got a long way to go.
Right.
But
you got a long time to get there.
I got a long time to get there.
And that is like, that's one of the biggest things I think we all have to remember, especially as like, we all try to come out of the gate guns a-blazing on January 1st. It's like, we got time, right? It's like, and the thing is when you think through it, though, not isn't only about not burning yourself out, but it's also, you don't want to get there too quickly, because a lot of people peak, and then once they get past like their peak, like they'll peak 2, 3, 4 weeks before their actual race day. And then they just become to a point where they're just overtraining. And that's because you've been doing it since February, and you're like, but I've got this Ironman, I got to start doing my 4-hour rides, right? I got to get in. Right? And then they just run themselves into the ground, and they probably peak sometimes probably a month or two beforehand. You don't want to peak any earlier than by the time your foot steps in the water on race day. Because any kind of peak before that is wasted. Like, and that's what a lot of athletes do. They come out of the gates, guns ablaze, and they're like, when are we going to ramp it up? When are we going to ramp it up? You're only able to peak probably twice, really, really peak at your highest twice in a year. And a lot of athletes try to do it and get there like way too early. Like it takes time.
And then hold it.
Yeah, and then hold it, and then they're like, I don't know why I couldn't hold it. Like now I'm racing worse. I'm like, yeah, because you're running yourself in the ground. The best way we can put it, and we'll wrap it up on that one, is, and we've said this before, this time of year is the first part of the train where you train so you can train the way that you need to train to get ready for your race. You don't want to jump to the third train. Start in the front, okay? Train right now so you can train the way that you want to train in the midsummer to get ready for your race. Don't try to jump to the end where you're like, I'm race day ready, baby, right now. Okay, well, you're not racing right now. Okay, most of us aren't racing until like April at the earliest, even if we do. And even if then, it'll probably be June, July, August. So what exactly are you primed for right now? You don't want to prime too early because then you're gonna peak too early. You're gonna overtrain, or you're gonna get stale, and you're gonna have to work. Then what happens is you stale out or plateau, and your next thought is, I guess my body's not responding. You know what it needs? More. I'm going to put more on. I'm going to train more hours, and you just run it into the ground. That's why I see so many people have these, what could have been amazing races in September, October, but they peaked in June or July, and they burnt their match. They blew their load. They burnt their biscuits. They ate their cookies. And next thing you know, they're like, you know what that means? 20 hours. I'm going to put 20 hours in. And then they figure out all they got left is cookie crumbles. Like they got nothing else. They got nothing else to put out there, and it's more frustrating. So the next answer is, I got to do more, or I got to totally reinvent the wheel. Remember how you got there. Be patient with it. And for the next week or two, have some fun. Get out there, exercise, train, do whatever. Have your cookies, eat your cake. Hit up Crystal at 3 a.m. Hit up your Christmas parties in your ugly Christmas sweater. Whatever you want to do, but just enjoy yourself and get yourself not physically ready, because your body will be ready no matter what. But if it won't matter if you're not mentally and emotionally ready and engaged and energized, then what your body wants or needs or doesn't want won't matter, because you won't be able to govern it and listen to it and be aware of it the way you need to do come time. What are you laughing at?
I was just laughing at it because it's like you look at some of the, like you look at an Ironman plan that you may pull off the internet or whatever, and like peak weeks are like 16 to 18 hours or whatever like that, and it's this weird temptation is like, January 1st, I'm going to just see if I got that in me. So if I, by the time it comes around, I can actually do it or whatever. It's like, it's a real deal. And I don't think we can hear these kind of conversations enough, or at least be reminded of things like this, because the patience piece of this is like never ending, It really is. It's like, and I have to struggle. I mean, I talk to you every day about it. All we do is talk about triathlon and these kind of conversations and stuff. And it's still like, some of us are cursed with that gene of like, get it now.
Yeah, well, or an athlete who's like, and we saw a lot of athletes struggle with that this past year, is you get like a training plan that has you in like the build weeks, and then their race gets canceled. Like, I'm just going to hang out in the build phase. I'm just going to repeat over. And I'm like, you need, like, regression is fine if you want to progress as far as you want to. That's okay. It can't just be, I want to hang out and just kind of be Ironman ready all year long. Oh my God, that sounds terrible. Like, even professionals don't do that. They're like, no, I need to just do nothing for like a month and go out and ride my mountain bike, trail run, not do anything at all, totally disassociate from triathlon. So maybe when it's time, I can get back to it again. They don't do it year around. And a lot of athletes are obsessed with doing it year round. And they're not, again, going back to last Thursday's podcast, they're not obsessed with getting better. They're obsessed with not missing a session, or they're addicted to training in a very unhealthy manner.
Mm. All right, buddy, let's wrap it up. And
as always, we hope we brought you a little bit of spice today of optimism and energy for 2021. Visit our website, C26Triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community, and also the previously mentioned club membership. You can click on the coaching tab, scroll down 3 times, club membership, all the info you need there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit up Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you want to hit me up about anything and everything, I'm at C26Coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. Happy Monday.
Down, 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 be all right.